And now, Lifestyles Unlimited presents the Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Over the next hour, we unfold your map to financial freedom. You'll learn how to retire through investing in single-family and multifamily real estate. You'll learn how to create cash flow and build wealth so you can have the time and money to live the lifestyle you want.
Welcome to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. I'm Mike Harrison. Yes, we're always working on your financial freedom. It's my absolute privilege to be joining you today. Welcome to the show. I understand we've added about 21 new radio markets around the country. How exciting. If you're just now tuning in, I'm happy to be part of your day. I am Mike Harrison. I am a radio host of Lifestyles Unlimited. I am a real estate investor and have been a real estate investor since 2011. I was able to leave my corporate management job in 2016. Thank you, Passive Income, and thank you, Lifestyles Unlimited, for teaching me how to buy my life back and create financial freedom. But I'm just one of three hosts. You'll also hear Andy Webb. Andy Webb is also right here in Dallas-Fort Worth. Andy Webb started investing in single-family real estate about the same time I did. I do more multifamily real estate investing. Andy really focuses on that single-family investing. And you'll also catch the great Colonel Al Gordon out of San Antonio. Colonel Al is a retired lieutenant colonel from the United States Army. They were kind enough to say thank you for your 30 years of wonderful service to us. Here is a mediocre pension. And Colonel Al found himself in a pickle once he left the Army, and he needed to find another way to support his family financially. He found Lifestyles Unlimited, learned how to invest using the Lifestyles Unlimited model, and Al retired himself financially. So that small pension just didn't do it. He had to find another way, and he did. But what do we do, friends? In a nutshell, what we do, it's really so simple, it's profound. But we buy cash flow. We don't save our way to wealth. That doesn't work. Many people are realizing that you can't save your way to wealth. It fails over 70% of the time. But we create wealth and cash flow and buy our life back one small piece at a time. Let me give you an example. We buy a single-family rental property. We fix it up. We put a great resident in that property, and our return for that is a nice $250 to $600 a month. That's that extra cash flow that we have after we pay the associated cost of ownership of that home, the PITI, as they call it, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And what's left over is ours. So let's say that's anywhere from $250 to $600 a month. Well, thank you, single-family property. I just paid my car note, for example. Let's go get another one. We get another $250 to $600 a month. And thank you, I just paid all of my utility bills each and every month. Let's add a third one. Wow, there's my grocery bill. And we keep stacking those on top of one another, creating that cash flow snowball, buying our life back one piece at a time. Friends, I changed my life in 3 short years. I went out and purchased 11 single-family cash-flowing rental properties, and that was just the beginning for me. But I changed my financial trajectory in just 3 short years using the techniques and practices taught to me by Lifestyles Unlimited. And Lifestyles Unlimited is an education and mentoring group. We've got members in all 50 states, and we've been around for over 30 years teaching those best practices. But financial freedom changes us. It absolutely changes us. Sure, it changes us financially, right? But along the way, when you become financially free, your perspective will change. And financial freedom has opened my eyes to see life's obstacles, life's challenges from an entirely different angle, from a whole different light. There's a guy we all know, Albert Einstein, and we all credit Albert Einstein with being one of the most brilliant minds of the last 100 years. And I'm going to paraphrase Einstein, but Einstein says, in order to solve a problem, you must see the problem in a completely different way than the manner in which the problem was first created. So Einstein's saying you cannot solve the problem with the same mindset, the same analysis that caused the problem to begin with, and financial freedom has enabled me to have that insight. Let me give you an example. Someone may say, Mike, I struggle to pay my bills, so I'm going to work harder. I'm going to work longer. I'm going to work to get a promotion. I'm going to work to get a raise. I'm going to get that second job. That doesn't work. Your bills never get smaller. I know those of you out there that use a financial advisor, what do they tell you? They say you're going to save, 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 save. Eventually you'll be able to retire. And guess what? You're going to live on less than you're living on now, so your tax burden is less. No, your cost of living is never less. Your taxes will always be more. Why would you want to live on less than you're living on now? Things only get more expensive. So you can't work your way to wealth. You must invest your way to wealth. I look back at my parents' generation, and I've got 3 kids aged 18 to 24, and they're chasing that American dream. Well, my parents' generation, my dad was what they call the silent generation. The silent generation was kids that were born in the 20s and 30s. They were born to be seen and not heard. That's why they called them the silent generation. That's even more significant to me, as my grandparents were English. Now, my mom, she was a baby boomer. She was born just after World War II. But I look back at their generation and I say, how'd they achieve their American dream? And yes, they had tribulations. They had World War II, the Cuban Missile Crisis, the unsteadiness of the late 60s, Vietnam, Nixon price controls. We all have turbulations as we go through life. They had Jimmy Carter, massive inflation, stifling interest rates, stagflation. But they also had the awakening of the great American economy. They were able to live and see the American empire at its greatest heights. They had Ronald Reagan. You know what else they had? Pensions. More on pensions later, but here's an update. Pensions just aren't out there in the private sector anymore. They've all but disappeared. So the modern American dream, achieving it, the path is going to be a little different. My parents had pensions. We don't, of course, unless you work for the government. Why do government workers have all the juicy benefits, and those of us that are scrapping and sweating and bleeding and striving to get ahead in the private sector, we don't have the benefits? It seems a little bit backwards to me, but anyway, that's a show for a different day. My parents, they also had stable Social Security. We're not going to have that in the future. Every metric the Government Accounting Office says Social Security will go belly up in the next 15 years. If you're relying on Social Security, I would not rely on that. It's pie in the sky. Maybe it'll be there, maybe it won't, but don't count on it. My parents' generation also had stable pricing if you remove the gas crisis of the early 70s, which my dad really sweated that out. I remember as a kid, he was not happy and put a real strain on our household. They had the ability to buy a house or a car at a rate that was not astronomical. Their working wages, for the most part, kept up with costs. So when I look back as they were achieving the modern American dream, for the most part, even though they had their own turbulations, they had price stability. The cost back then were affordable for the typical household. Let me explain that a little further. The median house, the price, the cost of a home for them was equivalent to roughly about 2.6 years of median household income. What does that mean? Basically, take whatever you make. Let's say it's $25,000 a year or $20,000 a year. 2.6, so call it about $46,000 would be about what a house would cost back then. What happened? In 2020, it's equivalent to 4.4 years of median income, and that spikes. It goes anywhere from 5 to 6 years of median income. The cost of housing has just really gone up. It's taken, I would say on average, 6 years of income. So if you're making $100,000 a year, well, you're seeing houses that are anywhere from $450,000 to $600,000, right? I believe $450,000 is about the median. So, wow, just that ratio is really much different today. So the means to achieve the modern American dream, we can always see if you're including that personal home in that modern American dream, it's out of touch for most people just because the median home cost has grown astronomically compared to the median household. I went back and I did some research, right? I always want to bring the receipts, as they say, for the show. If home prices grew at the same rate today as they did then, the median house would only be about $134,000. That's crazy, right? But when I say things were affordable for my parents, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So here's the big question. The personal house is always associated with, quote unquote, the American dream. Based on this information, I don't think it could be part of it, at least not in the beginning. At least not traditionally in the order they put it. I'm not saying you can't go get your personal home later, but I'm saying don't make it your primary end-all, be-all in your 20s and 30s to get that personal home. It's going to break you. More on the other side.
Lifestyles Unlimited's Real Estate Investor Radio Show returns in a moment. Got questions? Go to lifestylesunlimited.com.
Lifestyles Unlimited wants you real estate retired. Learn the roadmap to wealth building. Impact your family for generations. Just like Lifestyle members Chad and Lisa.
They're learning the rope. They see this in their future too. It's benefited our children in the way they think of their future. It's taught them how to think in the millions.
Learn from the best. Lifestyles Unlimited, teaching you how to retire in 5 years or less while building generational wealth in this rapidly changing environment. Now's the time to take action. Text the word radio to 88007. That's radio to 88007 for a 60% savings off the regular price. Our Financial Freedom Program membership for $297. That's $443 off our regular price. With over 33 years of educating and mentoring experience, let Lifestyles Unlimited help you become real estate retired. Text radio to 88007. That's radio to 88007.
Creating the lifestyle you've always wanted. You're hearing Lifestyles Unlimited's Real Estate Investor Radio Show.
Welcome to the show. I'm Mike Harrison. I'm a single family and multifamily real estate investor from Dallas, Fort Worth. I began well over a decade ago and changed my life, but I'm a partner in thousands of cash flowing real estate all across the country. If you'd like to see what we do, why we do it, how we do it, I'd like to invite you to our free workshop. That's freeworkshoplivestream.com, freeworkshoplivestream.com. Today, the modern American dream has changed. And if you're chasing the old historical model, you're going to go into massive debt and financially struggle. The metrics are there. The numbers are there. So we need, the modern American dream is just a different way of achieving the American dream. You see, the American dream hasn't changed. What's changed is the map, right? The historical path that my parents followed has been washed out by a landslide. So we need a new map to get there, and we have that map. The American dream has always been the same, right? It's basically the belief that no matter where you come from, the circumstances in which you begin don't matter. You can still achieve a life of freedom, success, self-worth, and you can focus on what really matters. What really matters is peace, love, joy, health, wealth, happiness, and legacy. But the American dream is achieved through sacrifice, risk-taking, hard work. It doesn't happen by chance. As real estate investors, we focus on financial freedom. If you have financial freedom, you have the means to live life on your terms. You can pursue those worthwhile endeavors, right? Peace, love, joy, health, wealth, and happiness. But financial freedom is the means. That's why we focus on that first. Yes, there's a saying, money doesn't make you happy, but I don't think I've ever met an unhappy, wealthy person. Financial freedom, think of it as the fuel in your car. Without the fuel, you're stuck. You can't go anywhere. You're trapped. So the roadmap and the metrics to achieve that point in life, that American dream, have evolved, right? The metrics must change because everything else has changed. just because the metrics have changed, does this mean we quit? No, it was different for my parents than it was for my grandparents. It's different for my kids than it is for me. And while you may look back on previous generations and say, oh, they had calm waters and we're in turbulent waters. Well, do you quit? Do you go home? No. What's the line in the movie Jaws? You're just going to need a bigger boat, right? Change the metrics. My parents, it was important to learn skills in school. I still believe that's the case. We have a lot of noise in school. We're teaching our kids all this ambiguous stuff that doesn't matter. They need to learn reading, writing, communication, math, history. History is more important than most people will lend credit to. History is important to us as real estate investors. Why? Because if you don't remember the past, you're doomed to repeat it. And our roadmap to financial freedom is created based on best practices, right? Do this, don't do that. That's history. Follow it. So my mom didn't go to college. My dad did. When they were young, you took that next step. You either went to work or you went to college. My dad went to college. He also went to the Marine Corps and served in Korea. Once they started working, they found their place. And what is that? What were they taught? Go find that large, stable corporation that offers pensions. We don't have those pensions. I remember my parents never rented. My dad got transferred a lot. He was an aeronautical engineer, worked in the aerospace business, but you'd go Denver to Huntsville, Alabama, to Cape Canaveral, Florida, to Louisiana for a time, to Houston, Texas, right? That's how I found myself here in Texas. I was born in Houston, but boom, we moved, but we never rented. We always bought a house because that house was affordable for my parents' generation. It's not today. Stop. If you're young and you think that the next step is to go put yourself where 50% of your income is going to that home ownership because you believe that the American dream is all about owning that home, if you put that first, that debt burden is going to pull away from you. And I don't want it to pull away from you. I want you to take your money and create cash flow. I want you to create financial freedom. Historically, the American dream was based around two ideals. Those two ideals are still hanging around today, and they've become a detriment to the modern American dream. What are the ideals? Home ownership, got to buy the home, and education, right? That path to education that we're just cramming down the throat of young people today. You must get a degree. It doesn't matter what you get a degree in. And okay, by the way, it's okay to borrow. No. Home ownership it just takes too much of your percentage of income right now. It's draining these kids. But let's talk about that education piece. The average college kid has a debt of almost $40,000. Is it worth it? Follow me here. I'm going to do a little model, but let me paint some background. In 1980, the price to attend a four-year college was just a little over $10,000. What is it today? Well, it's almost $30,000, if not more. That's 180% increase. Now, this would be hilarious if it wasn't so despicable, but U.S. News and World Report, as I was doing research for this show, they have an actual article, and this is, again, how much we're ingraining it into our youth. There's an actual article out there, and it's titled, How Much College Debt is Acceptable? If you ask Mike Harrison, that number is zero because that debt is an anchor around people trying to get their life started. But they actually list some degrees, and they say, if you get a degree in this, it's okay to be this much in debt. No. Communications, almost 60,000. Business, almost 60,000. Humanities, almost 60,000. Social sciences. Actually, they have social sciences higher than the value of a business degree. I would disagree with that. If you can function in business and provide a business and a skill set, you're going to make a lot more money, just my opinion. But what they're saying, at the end of the day, it's okay to be this much in debt. It's okay to burden yourself for 20 to 30 years. And oh, by the way, you're paying interest on that debt the entire time. We have kids leaving college with 6 figures in loans. No wonder people out there are saying, I'll never achieve the American dream. Well, tell me about yourself. Well, I got out of college. I had $100,000 in debt, and my wife and I, or my husband and I, the first thing we did was buy a brand new home. Well, yeah, you are saddled with debt. let's take that $60,000 that U.S. News says is okay to be in debt for college. In 2015, if you gave me $60,000, I could have bought 5, maybe 6 rental properties. But let's say it's 2 today, right? 30,000 down the way we teach it. That's going to provide $300 to $600 a month in cash flow, conservatively. Mortgage pay down, right? Each and every month, your resident is paying the rent. You're taking that rent and you're paying what? You're paying the principal out of that rent. There's another $250 to $400 a month, right? Times 2, the 2 houses. The tax advantages, the cash flow on, when done right, the way we teach it, is going to be tax-free. Again, I tell you, all the rules are written in favor of the little guy. As a real estate investor, all the tax advantages are in your favor. My steps to achieve the American dream, here they are. Yes, go to school when you're young, be attentive, listen and learn, and focus on what's important. Reading, writing, math, communication skills. You're going to need those. Math is so important. I'm not saying you need upper level calculus, but you need to understand interest, the power of interest rates. You need to understand how to create a budget. You need to understand how to live beneath your means. If you choose to go to college, do so with caution. Do not go into debt. If you don't have the money to go to college, that's probably maybe somebody knocking on your shoulder saying, hey, there's a different path, right? Don't trade loans for education. Don't let your parents borrow either. A lot of young folks today, their parents are going into massive debt because they're still buying on the 20th century American dream. The path has changed. And if you don't go to college, work where you can learn a viable skill. And a viable skill is a skill that is in demand. It's a skill someone will pay you to perform. And while you're doing that, here it is. Here's where the path changes. Yes, you're going to work when you're young, and you're going to save, and you're going to have that budget and live on less than you make. And save, save, save. Why do I want you to save in those early years? You're going to use that savings to start your path to financial freedom. You're going to use that savings to start buying those cash flowing real estate assets, one single family house at a time, maybe one investment in a multifamily property. The way we teach it, I don't mind early on if you're participating in that 401k if the company has a match, but don't participate beyond that. I'm going to share something with you. I had 401ks. I believe that was the path to financial future, my financial freedom. And I started doing the math in my early 40s, and I started doing the equations in my head, right? They all teach us we can live on 4% of whatever nest egg we saved. So if somehow you're able to get $1 million in your 401k, congratulations, you can live on $40,000 a year when you retire. No, I realized I would need millions of dollars in that 401k or in the IRAs to live a retirement of dignity, right? I didn't want to live in southern France and have a yacht. I realized that was not going to happen. I just wanted the normal retirement that you see on TV all the time, right? You see the old silver fox couple and they're frolicking on some island in the Caribbean and they got the rolled up khakis, and you see the commercials, you see the ads, you see the billboards. No, no, and no. We're going to create cash flow now, and we're going to live our best life today. We're not going to save for some pie in the sky in the future. So if you're young and you have that 401k, I'm talking early 20s, just do it up to the match and then continue to save above and beyond that. We're going to pull that 401k later, and my next show is going to be entirely about ditching the 401k and ditching the IRA, why you're going to do that, and how you're going to use that money that's in there and change your life. I took $400,000 combined out of 401ks and IRAs and pulled it. I paid the 10% penalty, yes, and I know don't drive off the road if you're just now listening to me, okay? I paid the 10% penalty. I paid the taxes. They were steep, but I had a pile of money to begin investing in real estate, and today that money is worth many, many times over what it was. I didn't sweat the 10%. I look back on it now, and it was a small price to pay when I'm taking that money and I'm putting it into assets that are earning me an annualized worst case scenario, 15% a year, but most often it's 25 to 30% or more per year. Are you going to sweat a 10% penalty to go make those kind of returns? No. And it's also okay not to participate in the 401k if you have the discipline to save. Stop chasing the personal home mortgage. It's out of reach right now. I provided the metrics earlier in the show. You'll buy that personal home later when you're financially free. For you young people out there, if you get married, I want you to understand this. And get married. I got married when I was young. It was the most fantastic decision I ever made in my life. But your financial future is going to be determined by two things: the decisions you make and the person you marry. So important, your spouse needs to share your financial philosophy. That'll make the difference. That'll make the difference to the tune of 7 figures in your life. But once you're saving, when you get $50,000 or more, congratulations. That's when it's time to start your financial freedom journey. That's when you're saving to invest in real estate, right? You're not ditching money into some government savings account, 401k, IRA, or some mutual fund where you have no control. You are now investing for cash flow. And by the way, at some point, learn to invest in real estate. Why real estate? Friends, real estate is the most stable, resilient asset class on the planet. Everybody needs a place to live, right? You have 3 choices in life. You can buy a home, you can rent a place to live, or you can be homeless. That's part of what makes real estate stable, safe. Yes, I consider it the safest asset class when done properly. And again, we can teach that. I didn't start in my 40s, but I'd prefer that you start much earlier than that. But again, it's never too late. Your tomorrow's decided today. Remember, it's not the money, it's the lifestyle. Make it a great day.
The information and opinions you hear on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.